People power, very strong is our power. Yeah, people power, very strong is our power. I say, people power, very strong is our power. Yeah, people power, very strong is our power.
Welcome to the Liberating Minds podcast, where we continue to interrogate power, imperialism, and resistance. Today, we are joined by Sobukwe, our great friend to the show and the podcast, to unpack the recent political crisis in Guinea-Bissau, where what was framed as a coup appears to function as a political cover by an incumbent president facing electoral defeat. And so, generally, we'll be discussing on the recent politics in Guinea-Bissau. Welcome, Sobukwe.
Thank you. I appreciate it as always. An opportunity to have a conversation with you on anything, but particularly on these questions of the day and the situation in Guinea-Bissau, which is very important. And we can remember when we did, I think it was just last year on January, around this time, we talked about Cabral. We talked about the importance of him as a revolutionary and the importance of the PAIGC, the Independent African Party for the Liberation of Guinea-Bissau and Cape Verde. You know, of course, a long, rich history there, coming out of the struggle against the Portuguese who colonized at that time Guinea-Bissau, Angola, Mozambique, Saint Tome, and others territories surrounding the area. And certainly that importance of the revolution that took place there in Guinea-Bissau it was important then because, of course, it helped even coordinate the other struggles and was one of the founding members of Concept, the organization that combined and coordinated much of the fighting between those different countries that we mentioned. But now, of course, one of the sins of Guinea-Bissau in terms of imperialist oppression has always been that they must be disrupted, attacked, to keep them forever gaining complete power again. And, but each time, they've risen from the ashes. They've risen from the many attempted coups. They've risen, and from each time they were defeated to come back and win the elections again. PAIGC is still and still remains the largest political party in Guinea-Bissau. But as you said, and as you opened up, now they are facing a coup or a fake coup. This is one of the few coups on record where the army loyal to the former president arrest him, and he's so-called arrest him, and he still has his phone. He's still talking to the people around the world, telling them that he's being couped. Yet it's the same officers that support him are the ones doing the so-called coup. And even around the world, people could see through that. The former president of Nigeria, good luck, I forget his last name, I'm sorry, but Jonathan, Goodluck Jonathan, is clearly saw that because they were there to observe the elections in Guinea-Bissau that took place on November 23rd. We should know note that these elections were very, very late and had been delayed several times. These elections were finally forced by the masses of the people. The courts were manipulated, and many judges were fired, so that the sitting at that time sitting president, this coup maker, self coup maker, was controlling the courts at the time. And they blocked in every way, delayed in every way these elections. And when the elections took place on the 23rd, when they saw they were losing, they took and decided to do this fake coup on the 26th of November. And that's kind of a small background, but we can say more about the current situation, where many international organizations have came in, including ECOWAS, the socialist states. That's a Portuguese collection of those countries that are in support of democracy and liberation, have come together and talked about the contradictions that and agreed that the elections were free and fair. And the demands of the people was that the elections be announced, the results of the elections be announced. Of course, this coup group arrested the presidential candidate that, the head of the National Assembly. They arrested him, and they also arrested several other members of the PAIGC, the PRS, and others in this coalition, the Pia Terra Ranca coalition. And one of those people again was the head of the National Assembly, Domingos Simões Pereira. He was elected. Now the candidate for president, who we're pretty confident got the majority of the votes, ran into the Nigerian embassy, so he was able to escape through the confusion. So he's held up in the Nigerian embassy. His name is Fernando Diaz Costa. So those are this is, they've attacked the headquarters of the PAIGC, and many of the crucial members of these political parties and coalition are in hiding because of the current state.
Thank you, Sobukwe. You've really touched on some of the things that we're already going to discuss, especially on how the coup narrative emerged and who was benefiting it most from it. And you have rightly said that the current incumbent president orchestrated a fake coup. So, but one aspect that I would like also to understand before that point is that what were the political conditions leading up to this alleged coup? Of course, you've mentioned the elections kept being postponed, and what was the general condition and general perspective of the many people of Guinea-Bissau heading to that time?
Well, this first, let's maybe we set the stage by understanding that the coup maker, Embaló barely won the last presidential election, and some people say he didn't. But clearly, during that election, the overwhelming number of votes that for the assembly went to the coalition, the Pia Terra Ranca coalition, which included the PAIGC. They won most of the seats in the National Assembly. The ones who have the majority members in the National Assembly have the right to choose the head of the National Assembly. They are the ones who appoint that person. The coalition eventually appointed Pierre, and what happened is, of course, that they went to block the assembly, to dismiss. The president comes to try now to dismiss the assembly, not allowing the assembly to operate. During his term, they were dismissed, locked out, not able to function like an assembly should function. They had to put together a coalition in the assembly to have some force of power, but even this was severely hampered. So the reality is that they were again, the way that they tried, one of the ways that they tried to cripple the assembly is to say that that there was a coup attempt against the president, and that's why he had to take some emergency actions. Almost exactly what he did on this situation. Only this time he did a fake fleeing of the country. And so, but we don't know for sure whether he's in the country or not in the country. But what happened during that period, they were actually, like I said, they replaced some of the members of the courts. Again, like many countries, the courts are supposed to be independent of the administrative aspect of the state. So the courts are supposed to make independent decisions based upon the Constitution and the laws of the country. Of course, since the president didn't at first control all of them, he dismissed the ones that would not agree with the kinds of shams that he was trying to get through the courts. And eventually they were able to lock out the PAIGC as a political party from running on its own, having its own candidates. So through their coalitions and the widening of their coalition and adding another political organization, a socialist political organization that many who had already had their roots at one time in the PAIGC, they went to support their candidate. And on the coalition, PAIGC, and this PRS all got behind the same candidate. And the problem for the sitting president at the time, Embaló, was that now everywhere people are watching and as the votes are being cast. So you have election observers all over, people making sure that the boxes are not being stuffed, people making sure that that the transportation of the votes are going according to plan, people counting the votes as they are being cast. So now it becomes very clear that the leading candidate is the one that we mentioned, the one who is in the Nigerian embassy, Fernando Diaz Costa. So it's clear that the election was going to overturn the coup makers and their the Embaló, the former president. And it's this, on 3 days later, it's when they decide to do this fake coup, to try to find a way to stop the country from turning over to the masses who had made their decision. So that's kind of the reason why the coup had to take place. They don't want to give up power, and the people have spoken, and yet they even went into to try to terrify the elections board, who were supposed to, give the final results from all of the precincts, those inside of Guinea, and the people who are abroad, who are also considered, I think, the 10th district that make up the voting precincts, as we would call them, in the country. These votes are available, but the elections commission is, I guess, terrified or threatened not to release them. They still have not been released. These were the early demands made by the masses of the people who have organized and been in the streets all over the country. So, and in the midst of great intimidation, people being beaten, people's houses being raided, people having to go into hiding. So it's been a very violent attack on the people who have just went to the polls, made their decision to get rid of Embaló. So this is kind of the atmosphere that we're looking at.
I'm also wondering, where do the ordinary people of Guinea-Bissau fit into this crisis? And in terms of, are there grassroots movements or popular forces that are resisting this elite manipulation by the military officers and the state?
Well, I think that just by understanding, again, what has been going on there's been numerous strikes against the state in terms even to get to this point. The masses in the streets are what created the conditions for the elections to go ahead. Again, as we said earlier, that the elections had been delayed. They had been delayed and manipulated in terms of who could participate and who could not participate. All of these decisions were only brought about by the people being in the streets and making their position known. The only way that we get to this point in terms of even getting the kind of coalition politics for the betterment, for the interests of the masses, is because of the people's desire for change, the people's fight in the streets. So unfortunately, we don't get the kind of world coverage of a Guinea-Bissau that we get like when people are in the streets in a Guinea or a Nigeria and some of the bigger countries where that have more influence and impact on world politics. Guinea-Bissau is a relatively small country. So many times when something is going on there, it's unreported. That's why it's so important for us, those of us who have the information, to do these kinds of outreaches and discussions about what's going on in Guinea-Bissau. But I want to make the key point. The key point here is that for a period as I said, there were already international observers from ECOWAS and other institutions in Guinea-Bissau during this election. So ECOWAS has a delegation there that is trying to mediate the conflict, and that really they came to the conclusion that they didn't that the election should be released. The election results, I should say, should be released because that and that they should be available because it's aside from the election commission, in which they claim that the tally had been compromised and stolen and all other kinds of stories. The regions, the areas in which the elections took place also have the results. The results are available. Every organization that was involved were taking those tallies. They're clear that the results would show the winners to be the coalition of PRS, the PAIGC, the Terra Ranka. So, you know, those election results are available. Yet, and the ECOWAS, up until December 14th, agreed with this. But now, ECOWAS is calling for, instead of releasing the results and just allowing the government who won the elections to be formed, are now talking about some kind of transitional government that would include the forces behind the coup. So now the people would suffer a double loss. They win the elections outright, or they vote for whom they want outright. You don't release those results, and you go into some kind of coalition, temporary coalition government that includes the forces behind the coup. So the people, the demands of the people and the demands of the organizations that have organized to give the people their justice, the people giving the people the ability to have a clear and clean election, are going to be penalized if this should go back. And then justice again is delayed. Justice again is disrupted. You know, it's a victory if this happens. If we allow this to happen, would be a travesty for the masses who have been fighting so long to get to this point, to set them back again. Of course, we are not defeatists. We don't believe that the people will not rise and run even this reactionary decision if it somehow comes to be. But we understand that the people are only asking for these four things: to free the political prisoners, and to release the results of the election, to ask to put the soldiers back in the barracks under the state as they should be, and to restore the constitutional order. This is the four things that the people are demanding. And if any of the organizations that are there to try to help the people get back to constitutional order, if they ignore this idea of the elections, they are basically going through the delaying and interrupting and adding to the oppression of the people, taking away again their sovereignty. The people have spoken. They've made their votes. They're asking for simply that their votes be respected, that they are allowed to move this forward instead of going backwards. and rewarding those who, by creating disruption, be creating a coup, those who have delayed for years the people's motion forward to be a part of a government, like I said before, would be a travesty, would be a miscarriage of justice, would be a win for imperialism. Because all behind all of this, the disruptions all over the global South, and like we see in Central and South America today, are the same forces acting in Africa. They're imperialist forces. They won't. They certainly want nothing but reactionary governments in charge of the state of any country that challenges imperialism. And this is what we're really looking at. All of the other things aside, all of the other notions aside, imperialism doesn't want people to gain power. When the people are gaining power, when I say the people, the forces that want to move the countries forward, they want to move the for development. And I'm not talking about development for a few, but the development for the masses. When those forces are moving forward, when they are organizing and out organizing the forces that are being paid by imperialism, basically we're going to have, this is the result. This is what happens. And this is why the people, but, like I said, we're not defeatists. As long as the masses have in their hearts and want true sovereignty, they'll keep rising. They'll rise and rise. But we have to be responsible to do our part. We need to be contacting these forces. We need to be contacting ECOWAS and letting ECOWAS know what the demand, that we support the demands of the people who made their vote, made their decision, took their democratic rights to organize and to put aside their differences for the betterment of the whole. So I thought it's important that, and I really appreciate the opportunity that you've given us to talk about some of these things. You can certainly go to the All African People's Revolutionary Party's website, which also has a copy of the demands of the Guinea-Bissau, the people in Guinea-Bissau. The demands that I've just stated. There's a copy of these demands, and it gives a brief historical analysis of the situation as it stands. But there's a lot more to be known, and we hope at some point maybe we can get one of our comrades who is actually in Guinea-Bissau, and we do a follow-up and they do a more thorough analysis of the situation than I can from the outside, comrade.
Thank you, comrade. Indeed, you have shed light into something that most of us are not aware. As you have said, there's no a lot of coverage on what is happening in Guinea-Bissau. And at first, when the coup happened, we had thought that it was one of the popular coups that of the wave taking over in West Africa, only to realize that it was a cover-up. It was a fake coup to protect the president himself after losing the elections. And of course, you've also mentioned the active participation of the ordinary people of Guinea-Bissau in their politics. And this, of course, is not highlighted by many media platforms. So we really appreciate having this discussion with you. You have actually answered two of the last questions I was to ask, so there will be no need of going into those questions. And the questions were, what position should progressives in Africa take? And you have mentioned the demands. And of course, we'll also attach the link on APRP, the demands to ECOWAS. I think that is the right position that progressive in the continent should take. But also some of the lessons that come out on the scenario and the politics of Guinea-Bissau for the rest of the continent. As you will know, Sobukwe, that in a year from next year, Kenya will be having its elections. We have heard of rumors of extending presidential terms. So the question of Guinea-Bissau is really important for us and the rest of the continent. We also saw the elections that happened in Tanzania. Yeah, the president won with 98% of the elections, which is impossible. But we also saw the massacres, the killings of innocent youth in Tanzania. And so we also saw the elections that was in Tanzania. We have upcoming elections in Uganda next year. And those will also be very interesting elections to see. So perhaps one thing, and you've mentioned a lot, if you feel it will be repetitive, it's fine. But what are the lessons that progressive social movements and the continent should be getting out of what is happening in Guinea-Bissau?
Well, I think the important part for all of us to understand is that the question of an analysis of a particular country has to be grounded in an historical analysis of its relationship to imperialism and the continent's relationship to imperialism as a whole, and that we can't think that every process is exactly, what am I going to say? Like we see on the continent, when we see coups, we have to understand that coups are a expression of taking power. Some coups are rooted in popular uprising of the masses of the people because of legitimate complaints. Yes, but the reality is that the majority of coups in the world are imperialist coups. They're coups that are financed from the outside, generally. They're coups that are overthrowing the order because of political interest from the outside. And we have to understand, even in situations where there's uprisings, that we have to understand the basis or the conditions for the uprisings may be true. And when I say the conditions for the uprising, so when there's not enough employment, when there's poverty, when the state is underdeveloped, when the masses of the people are oppressed economically and socially, and they don't see a way out, and there are more and more youth. But there are many influences in the world, and some of those influences take advantage of real contradictions within a society. So if you are the U.S. and you don't like Venezuela having a relationship with Russia and China, and being able to, after you've been trying to sanction them and take away their avenues to feed their people. No, certainly there are going to be people in the society that is being starved, that have legitimate complaints that there's not enough housing, there's not enough food, there's not this and that and the other. But sometimes imperialism finances and sends in people to take advantage of this, not for the benefit of the masses. That's why we strongly suggest political education, ideas, an understanding of not just what you're against, but what you're for, must be part of any analysis, any political rebellion cannot take power, cannot keep power, cannot advance the people without some kind of revolutionary ideology. And that's, I think, comes from what Cabral told us back then. It's one thing to be in rebellion and to deal and to be fighting against the conditions that are at play, but we have to know what all of those conditions are. Who are on us? Who's really on our side? Who's not on our side? Who, and so I think the lessons to be learned is every coup is not a revolution, so I think we have to understand that just seeing a coup doesn't mean that it's being run by revolutionaries or led by revolutionaries. So we have to look at each one of these situations with a real political lens, a real understanding that it's not always just the people with guns. What did Sankara say about people with guns? He says those, that just having a gun doesn't make you a revolutionary. In fact, it can mean just people with guns without political education can end up being thugs. Yeah, so I think that's the lesson we need to learn. We need to dive deeply into each situation and see where imperialism stands and which side imperialism stands. I think Malcolm told us that, if the enemy is saying this is good, it's probably not. So I think we have to be careful in our analysis and to politically educate ourselves so that we can make a more clear analysis. And sometimes, we might not know on the spot, but like you said, we can look deeper, we can get more information, and then we can maybe have a better understanding of a situation as it unfolds. Well, we want everybody to, to go to the AAPRP website, find that document. We want you to take concrete actions in support of the people of Guinea-Bissau. Thank you.
Thank you, Comrade Sobukwe. As always, it's always an insightful conversation and discussion whenever we get to have them. Thank you for highlighting the recent politics in Guinea-Bissau, what is happening. It's very important. And of course, we shall be having a subsequent series on looking and analyzing at what is happening in Guinea-Bissau. All right. Thank you, Comrade.
Thank you.
People power, very strong is our power. Yeah, people power, very strong is our power. I say, people power, very strong is our power. Yeah, people power, very strong is our power. I'm tired of these games, a president killing people, that is not so safe. A revolution for my people, that is what I aim for. Why are things still same though?